So how do we go from this to this? You're watching Delbasid Timbers. Stay tuned. Have a look. Hey, it's Dale. Welcome back to Delbasid Timbers. We're again back in the shed mahal. Now today's project is, I've been playing around with one of my holy rim bowls. Now this is a bit of camphor laurel. Now camphor in Australia is a noxious weed. It's not allowed to be grown these days. Camphor, or Cinnamomum camphora, originally came from China and Japan and was introduced to Australia in 1822. It came into Australia as an ornamental plant. You know, went into fancy gardens and botanical gardens and all of that sort of stuff. Like most stuff that's been brought into Australia, it's either to look pretty or to kill stuff. I guess the thing with camphor is that the grain is really gorgeous. I'm not a fan of the smell, as most people would know. However, it does look really, really pretty and really nice. It is actually becoming a little tiny bit more difficult, particularly up here, to be able to get hold of. Now, the colour on that is really, really nice. But rather than just having a boring platter like that, well, not boring, but I make them quite regularly, I'm actually going to make a lid for this and also a stand that's going to come down under here onto a pedestal. So that's going to be the project for today. I hope you enjoy the little bit of info that I give about timber every now and again. And let's get to the roundy. So we're going to need 4 bits of timber to do this. So we'll grab that, whack that down there, and grab some measuring weaponry. Right, so to do across the lid here, I just need to give myself a little tiny bit of wiggle room. So I reckon, just for safety's sake, we're going to make that about 25 centimetres. Now, if that's 25 centimetres across there, and I know that it's 35 centimetres in total, I think I'm going to make the base, right at the very bottom, about 15 centimetres. So remember that, 25 and 15. Now, the height, I reckon, will also make about 15 centimetres. So that way we're starting to be quite proportional with how things are going to look. Now the 35, the 25 and the 15 start to become really interesting in terms of ratios, and that starts to look really good to the eye. Rightio, so where are we up to with all of this chaos? I've been to the bandsaw and I've cut a few bits and pieces. Also killed the bandsaw blade, that let go. That was fun. Oh, winky winky. Holy moly. So, oh, what do we got? Oh, heavy. So I've got the stem, so that's going to go right in the bottom that way. That'll provide the height. Cut that bit of camphor, which has got some nice colour in it. That's going to be the very base on the foot. And then we've got this bit of camphor, and that will be, sorry, covering up the microphone, that's going to be the lid. So what I need to do, and it doesn't really matter which order I do this in, but I need to sort of start to have a bit of a process with this. I need to cut a rim in around here, because that's where the rim of the lid is going to sit down in. So that might be the first part that I do, or I might just stuff around and play with the stem, because that's kind of what I feel like doing. Right. It'll all get done eventually. I'll whack you up there and we'll see how we go, hey? Righto. After contemplating my navel for 30 seconds, I really determined that I've got to do the stem first. Stinks. Spotty gummies, shitty stuff. Oh, that's looking nice. Now to make that cut and to get it really nice and clean, and that's actually pretty clean in reality. You know, and again, I could have used a skew, I could have used a roughing gouge, didn't really need to. But to make a really clean cut, because I don't have great grip strength in my hand sometimes, I actually lock that chisel right under my rib cage. So that sits right in under there. Now that cannot then go anywhere, it can't lift. The only way it can lift is that if I'm going with it too. And if that happens, then we've got a world of excitement going on. I reckon that's probably about the length that I want. I don't reckon I want too much more. I would have cut that off on the bandsaw, but as you heard earlier, I had bandsaw dramas, which is a pain. So, look, at the end of the day, I'll just sit there and cut that off with a parting tool or a hacksaw or whatever I feel like doing. So, yeah, right, getting there. Now we've just got to start measuring tenons and bits and pieces soon, because then we can start making shapes. So I've measured across the tenon here. So I now know how wide this has to be. So that then is going to be my measurement for then coming back to the tenon on the stem and working out where that needs to go. So that's pretty straightforward, and that's the fastest, easy way of doing that. Now the other thing that I will be doing also to make life a little bit easier and faster is I'm just going to use a skew and I'm going to run a planing cut. I'm just going to run that all the way because I want to get rid of that rough edge anyway. That's gone right down my shirt. Now where did I put it? Stop looking. Right. Never ever touch that top edge up there, because otherwise you'll get a world of excitement. But yep, that gives me a fair idea. Still got a bit to go. I'll make it don't want to make it too big though. I might even try and put it in the chuck down here, so that I can do some fiddling around at this end as well. So we'll put a tenon on this end as well and fiddle it out with it. But yeah, I'd like to put that in a chuck, just so that we've got a little bit more wiggle room. So again, even on that end, grab that, turn the skew up the other way. Don't run more than about half the length of the skew, probably not even, hey? Just handle down, slide up and on, and as you move in, you lift that handle up. See, there we go. So quick, so fast, and if you use the angle of the skew, you can actually then meet the same angle as the jaws of your chuck. So now I can get rid of the spur drive. Whatever happens down around here, I don't really mind. I probably don't want it to go really much bigger than sort of that. Oh, this shirt's now so itchy. All down in here is all covered, loaded up with those shavings. Ah, yuckus. Anyway, we're all safely in the chuck, all mounted up. That's looking really, really nice. But Dickhead 1 here, in all of his glory, decided to use the knockout bar to get the spur drive out of the headstock, and gave it a little tiny bit too much doolally, and of course now it's down there. So bear with me for the next 15 hours as I go and find a magnet, go try and find this spur drive, because if I don't go find it now, the thing will never get found, and then when I go and clean up down here, the damn spur drive will end up in all the pile of shavings that go to a mate's front yard. We're back after a very, very welcome kebab to deal with the trauma of me dropping my spur drive down into that big pile of shavings down there. Holy moly, that was a world of not fun. If you haven't seen the excitement of that, have a look up there. I've put a link up to a YouTube short, not these shorts, those shorts, about the drama of that happening. Anyway, while I was having said chicken kebab of yumminess, I was having a look at a few comments on my YouTube and Instagram, and I was talking to a guy about blades and about cutting. Now, he always has drama with getting on the bevel and with skews and with gouges, and I was actually saying to him that a gouge really is nothing but a curved skew. If you understand how blades work, you can cut with pretty much anything. If you have a look at a guy like Richard Raffin, who understands cutting amazingly well, Richard Raffin, he understands how blades cut. Mate, he could cut with a dead dingo's dong. It's that impressive. But once you're on that bevel and you understand how blades cut, you'll be able to cut anything. So I'm going to do some stuff down the track with turning tips for the torso about blades and about cutting and bevels and all of that sort of bizzo. Supported cuts, really important. Anyway, I digress. Now, where were we? Right. So I've got to get rid of this little nub that's down in there that the tailstock is up against. That's easy. Then I'm going to start test fitting the platter against this tenon, because that's going to then determine what I do here. I want this to be a nice tight fit so that then I know my movement. Then I'll move a little bit down to this end to be able to work out what I'm going to do down here. Now, I've got no idea how big this tenon needs to be, but I'm just going to make it the size that I want to make it, because then I can sort of make it fiddle fart around and fit to the base. That's not a drama. Once we've done that, then we'll turn this bit, the longy, shanky, standy, tally bit, and try and make things fit and make it look a little bit sexy and gorgeous. Now, let's just head to the end there, just carefully, and I know I really shouldn't be doing that, but what the hell. Now I'm just going to put a little nub there, because again, that's my center point of how I line everything back up. That's the tenon. Now we'll start cutting this off. Oh, that's going right down my shirt. That's yuck. The only bugger about having one arm and all that crap is you can't actually wear a smock. So I should actually just wear a really tight t-shirt. But anyway, it is what it is. First world problems of complaint. So this is our progress so far. So we've got the tenon on one end. So this end is what's going to go into the actual platter, and I'll start test fitting that very shortly. And then this end is what's going to go into the base. Now I've made a little bit of a taper there so that the jaws don't get in the way. It doesn't really matter what happens at this end, because I can do a little bit of flipsying around once I know what the go is later on, because I can use this as the tenon end to go into the chuck while I fiddle around with that end. Make sense? Clear as mud. Thought you might. Yep. I've just done a little bit of rough shaping here on the stem so we can start to get a bit of an idea of where we're at. So while that's not perfect and what it's going to be, I'm getting some idea of the form and what sort of shape that I want. That's starting to look okay. Now the next bit is going to be, I will grab the actual platter part and I'm going to offer it up here and start to fit it onto the tenon. I want to get this exactly right and to fit correctly before I start shaping any more of this, so that I know where I'm going. One step at a time. It is just a process. We're about to find out. Not quite. Right, let's have another look and see how we're going here. Hang on, don't drop it. Don't want to bruise and damage it. Oh, look at that. Okay. Perfect. So if we look behind there, you can see now that that's all nicely supported. So I'm now not going to do anything more on this little bit. I am going to just, hang on, pull that off. Right. Just this little lip here, I'm just going to give a little tiny bit of profile to, just so that it looks nicer. Yeah. And then we'll keep on going with what I'm doing with the stem. We'll bring you back in a sec. Okay, so that's looking quite nice. I'm going to use that as the basis of the stem. What we'll do now is just give that a little bit of a sand up, and yep, then we can start to play with the base and see what the go is. I'm actually going to finish this, so I'm going to sand it. Don't know whether I black Japan it. I'm very tempted. But the contrast of that being black japanned between all that camphor laurel, I think might be really interesting. Oh, decisions. Righto. Okie dokie. So I did accidentally black japan it. I think that actually looks really good. That'll look fabulous as the stem. It will mean that I need to black japan the finial that's going on top to actually make everything fit and match together, but that's going to be cool. Awesome. I think that looks all right. See, you can still see the grain coming through that too, which I really quite like. And the detail is just nice. Okay, we'll take it off and then we can start making the base. Then we can make the lid and then we can make the finial. Probably still got another couple of hours worth of work in this. It's a new day and it's 1,000,000% humidity today. Look at my shirt, I'm soaked. Where were we with this thing? Right, so far we've got this far. Now, some people would sit there and say that actually looks really nice as it is, and they're kind of right. But I'm going to put a foot on that, also made out of camphor. So the bit of timber that I've chosen is just a bit of that. Now, that diameter is going to fit the outside diameter of that bottom of the main platter. Now, the colour that I've got there, and we've got the other part of it there, I'm going to keep all that colour and have it as bright as I possibly can to try and match the rest of the platter. Now I'm going to pierce this as well because I want to have some level of continuity between all of the holes here, holes in the foot, and also I want to have on the lid, piercing on the lid as well, so that there's all continuity between all aspects of the piece. I think that would be really interesting, really different, and a bit of a challenge of the skills to make it all work. Right, let's grab that. We'll bang him on a faceplate and back to the lathe.
Verniers really were never designed for a bloke with one hand, were they? No, that's where the fancy teeth work has got to come into things. But yeah, we do have to do some measurisation here to be able to find out what is the size of the mortise that needs to go into this foot. So yep, do a little bit of measurisation, and that way we can make sure that we know what goes where. And if it gets untightened, it's got to get tightened back up exactly the same way. On we go. You can just start to see the mark there about how I've marked this out. Now I'm also widening it out here so that I can actually measure out where I reckon the top of the fall of the foot is going to need to be. Now when you're doing this, never end up allowing that right hand tip of those verniers to touch the wood. You always want the wood to be coming down on the left-hand side and not touch on the right-hand side. If it touches on the right-hand side, it's going to want to rip the whole thing up and you're going to end up around your eyeballage. That's never a good thing. meeting up with the outside line of those verniers that's now going to define the shape of the foot. We've got the rough shape now formed. We can kind of see where we're going with it now, and you can see that the mortise is in place, so that's now going to fit nicely into the tenon that's on that stem.
Oh, so close. No, let's not force it, we'll break it. Little tiny bit more. All right, so there we go. That's a pressure fit. Oh, noise. Sorry about that.
I'm just defining where the holes are going to go. So really, I'm just giving them a bit of a framework. So that way the holes go in between those grooves.
Okay, so there we go. We've got a pressure fit. I think that's starting to look pretty nice. So this is going to be the base, and we're going to put some holes down in there as well, just to replicate what we had at the top. So far, so good. Right, let's start drilling out holes. Yippee! Drilling holes is boring, boring as batshit, the drilling of the hole. After a little bit of consideration, I'm thinking this foot down here might be a little bit too chunky. What do you reckon? I think I might need to take a little bit off that. I'm liking the overall form of everything. That's looking pretty nice, etc. But I think we might just take a little tiny bit off that foot and just thin it out and give it a little bit more petiteness. Righto, let's do that then, and we'll whack it back together. Sits. All right, I think that sits a lot nicer in terms of the profile down here. I think that, yep, that just is looking kind of the business. Right, so now up the top, I've now got to cut a little bit of a rim on the inside here so that the lid sits down in there. Not very much, but just enough. And then we'll do the lid, and then we'll do the finial that goes on top. So in the end, this whole thing is going to sit up here somewhere, probably about there. Yeah, probably about 45 to 50 centimetres in total height. That's probably the largest thing I've actually made in terms of this style of thing, but got to challenge yourself. And again, all the ratios will end up being right. So if that's 55 centimetres high and this is 35 centimetres diameter, I think that is actually a good ratio in terms of the way that this is going to look. Right, let's do that. So we'll take away all those bits. I'll just cut the rim in this without showing you, but we'll then get back in a sec and we'll whack the lid on and we'll start to muck about with that. Now, I'll turn him off. Just enough so you can actually see what we're doing, okay? A bit like that, what do you reckon? Okay, so we'll take that off, fiddle around, and now we'll, what are we going to do? Yeah, we're going to make the lid. Come on, get with the program, son. Awesome.
I've discovered that it goes significantly better if you actually charge the microphone. Anyway, yet again, technical gremlins strike the torso. I'm just so not good at this, hey? Anyway, we're just doing a bit of shaping of the lid, just getting a bit of the form right. Now I'm really wanting to follow the shape of the underneath of the platter. That way that I'm going to get some levels of symmetry that will end up looking reasonably sort of decent. This is another good example of the wheelchair cut. When you can't rock on your feet, you can't pull more than 45 degrees. Therefore, you've got to reposition. Of course, it's right about now I discovered that I hadn't actually turned the microphone on. Well done, Tiger. Up there for thinking, down there for dancing.
Okay, so we've got the basic sort of shape. Now, I can't go too far down in here because I still need to have enough room to make that lip to be able to fit down as the lid, the inside part of the lid. I can probably go, oh geez, another, no, not much actually. Now I've still got this bit of a bark inclusion here. Do I want to get rid of that? Don't know. But I am loving all this colour that's all the way around here, and there's even some chatoyance and bits and pieces that are floating through here. So that's going to end up looking quite nice. I just got to do a little bit of fiddling now in terms of sizing and working out the shape. I'm going to refine this a little tiny bit more because I do want it to try and follow a little bit the curve of what we've got down there with the main part of the bowl, you know, that bit. Yep. So we'll sort that out and we'll make this a little bit round. We've got to do a little bit of measurization now and fiddle about. Happy days. Lost me turny offy device. Stop looking. I found it. You weren't even looking anyway, were you? Yeah, thanks for nothing. Love your work. I've just cut the tenon at the back here and hopefully we're going to fit. So we'll take that off. As you can see, there's the tenon. I just need to clean off that side of it also. That's why I've got that tenon on that side. Now, let's just have a little bit of a squizzy to see whether we fit. And we're in perfectly. Here we go. Little tiny bit of wiggle room. But for a lid like that, I don't really want that to be a pressure fit anyway. Now the other thing is, did I make this tenon on this side too small? Ah, perfect. Beautiful. You've spun me right round, baby, right round. Okay. Okay, so as we can see, this is the lid. We've got the lip here done. That's all ready to rock and roll. Now, in here, I've actually made another mortise. That way I can turn things back to front around again so I can do more stuff on the other side. That's going to be really important as we move forward. I'll give this a little bit of a clean up and all of that sort of bizzo. Now, I am going to put holes, again, more holes from the other side through to here. That's the other reason why I want to be able to swap it back around again so that I've got a nice firm base to be able to do that because it's far, far cleaner to be able to cut from the top side through to under here because this will be far easier to clean out. Yeah. This whole wood turning thing is just a process, hey? It's just step by step by step, but it's knowing the order of which way to do stuff in. Otherwise, you end up getting a little bit arse about and out of hand. Right. Back to find the drill and the drill bits. Thank goodness we're done with that. I think we might call that quits for today. Tomorrow is another day and we'll come back and finish this off as well as the finial. So there we go. That's the top finished. I've just got to drill a hole in the top here for where the finial is going to go. But come on have a look. Oop. Let's see if we can get those shadows out of the way. that looks pretty nice. So that's all the difficult part done. Now we're just going to make the finial. Finials are finials.
I'm just running a 12mm drill bit down into there to make a little bit of a mortise that will accept then the 12mm tenon for the finial. So what did we reckon so far? I think the shape of this is starting to come up really, really nice. You can see that the finial is actually really going to pull the whole piece together and give it a little bit more height. I think that's going to be pretty important. But so far so good. I'm pretty pleased with the form. Oop, not very pleased with the focus of the camera or the cameraman's skills.
Okay, well, we're not perfect about that in terms of a finial, but that's not too bad. We're just now fitting it to size. It's the length that I want. That's going to be 15 centimeters, so that's the height that I want. And yeah, and we're just going to black Japan it. We'll give it a little bit of a sand. It probably only needs a sand with about 240, 320, something like that. And Bob's your mother's brother. Well, giddy up, we're done. Finally. This has been a bit of a labour of love. I'm really pleased though that what was up here has now basically turned into this. I've done about 9 hours worth of contact time on this, plus the extra hour or two of fiddling around with filming and whatever else, and I'm really quite happy. We've actually come from the original platter that I'd made, and I just got a bit bored with that, and I had a bit of an idea in my head, and I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. So, I hope you enjoyed watching. It's just a little bit of a different one, and it's a bit of an example of the thought process that goes on up here, as scary as that is. If you enjoyed watching all of my videos, there's more up there and up there, or there, or wherever I've pointed to them, and enjoy. Okay, we'll catch you next time.